By some measures, the richest man alive is kneeling on a cold prison floor. Richer, they say, than the empire's own treasury, and a guard is handing him a gift. Not a sword, not chains, a long, pale strip of silk. It's a mercy, though he doesn't yet know what he's being spared. This man is being handed the most expensive thing his fortune will ever buy him, a quiet way to die. His name was Heshen. In 20 years, he stole so much from one empire that historians still rank him among the richest people who ever lived. By one widely repeated estimate, somewhere around $250 billion in today's money. He could buy anything. Anything except the one thing that was about to kill him. This is the story of the richest thief in history, and the 15 days that took it all back. To understand how it ended on that floor, you have to start where nobody was looking. A gate. In 1772, a young man stands guard at one of the gates of the Forbidden City. His name is Heshen. He's a minor palace bodyguard. Low rank, no fortune, no powerful family, parents gone when he was young. On paper, he is nobody. He is the kind of man emperors walk past 1,000 times and never see. Except one day, the emperor sees him. Qianlong was one of the longest reigning rulers in human history, master of roughly 1/3 of all the people alive on Earth. And the story goes that as his procession passed the gate, the old emperor spoke a line from the classics, half to himself, the way powerful men test a room.
When the tiger escapes its cage and the jade is ruined in its case, whose fault is that?
It was the kind of question meant to hang in the air, unanswered. But a voice came back from the gate.
The keeper's, Majesty. The man who left the cage unlocked can hardly blame the tiger.
Sharp, well-read, quick on his feet, and easy to look at. In that one moment, a nobody at a gate became a face the most powerful man in the world wanted to keep close. What happened next doesn't happen. Not in an empire run by exams and bloodlines and decades of patient climbing. Within a single year, the gate guard was made vice minister of the empire's revenue, put in charge of the money, then grand counselor at the emperor's right hand. By 27, he was granted the right to ride a horse inside the Forbidden City, an honor normally reserved for frail old men of the very highest rank. He didn't climb the ladder, he skipped it. A rise that fast makes enemies, so he made himself untouchable. In 1790, his son married Qianlong's favorite daughter. Heshen wasn't just the emperor's official anymore. He was the emperor's family. So picture where he's standing now. He controls the empire's money. The emperor loves him like a son, and there is not a single person in China with the power or the nerve to ask him a hard question. And that is the exact moment a clever man becomes a dangerous one. Because Heshen had just understood something. He didn't have to steal from the treasury. He could become the gate the whole treasury flowed through. So he built a machine. One of the most profitable machines the world had seen up to that point. And it ran on other people's fear and ambition. He stacked the offices that mattered: revenue, personnel who got promoted, the household of the emperor himself. Every appointment, every tax, every fat government contract started to pass through his hands. And a man who controls all the doors can charge you to walk through any of them. Want to be a provincial governor? Then picture the room where that was arranged. Lamplight, a closed door, and a man who has brought a very heavy gift.
They tell me a governorship can be arranged for the right token of respect. I've come prepared to show mine.
Then the province is yours. Serve well, and remember who gave it to you. What's given can be taken back.
That was the price. But selling offices was only half the machine. Did you embezzle and get caught? You didn't have to face the law. You could quietly pay Heshen instead, and the problem disappeared. He turned other men's crimes into his income. He took a cut of the gifts, a cut of the fines, a cut of the army's budget, while generals he protected dragged out their wars on the frontier, because a longer war meant more silver flowing, and more silver flowing meant more for him. He owned pawn shops, banks, mines, whole counties of farmland. By the end, it was easier to list what he didn't skim. He wasn't a thief sneaking through the dark. He was an institution. For 2 decades, to do business in the largest empire on earth was, in some quiet way, to pay Heshen. And every tael came from somewhere real, squeezed out of taxes wrung from farmers who had less and less to give. While his fortune swelled, the countryside frayed. Hunger in the provinces, rebellions stirring on the edges of the map. The empire was rotting from the inside, and the rot had a name, and the name was sitting right next to the throne. Untouchable. And every crime was remembered. Somewhere, the list was growing. It just needed someone with the power to read it aloud.
How much did it come to? When they finally counted, and we'll get to why they counted, the numbers stopped sounding like money and started sounding like a kingdom. The count came to around 1.1 billion taels of silver, roughly $250 billion today. By some accounts, more than a decade of the entire empire's income, some say as much as 15 years, sitting inside one man's walls. And the inventory reads like a fever dream. 58,000 taels of pure gold, well over a ton, millions of silver ingots, a mansion of nearly 3,000 rooms, some of them, it was said, copied from the Forbidden City itself, 12,000 acres of land, pearls said to outshine the ones the emperor wore, hundreds of European clocks, and, as the legend of that hoard goes, beds of solid gold set with gems. Here was a private citizen richer than the state he served. For all of it, every tael, every clock, every golden bed, one thing kept Heshen alive. Not the fortune, a heartbeat. As long as the old emperor breathed, Heshen was untouchable. Every official in the empire knew what he was. They had known for years, and not one of them could move, because to lay a finger on Heshen was to insult the emperor who loved him like a son. His whole empire of silver rested on one old man's pulse. On the 7th of February, 1799, that pulse stopped. Qianlong was dead, and the richest man on earth had just lost the one thing his fortune had never been able to buy him: time, because someone had been waiting, quietly, for years. The new emperor was Qing, Qianlong's own son. He had grown up watching Heshen bleed the empire white, and he had hated it, and he had been able to do absolutely nothing. A son does not arrest his dying father's favorite, so he waited, and the moment the throne was his, the waiting was over. He gave it 5 days. 5. Heshen was still at the palace, managing his protector's funeral rites, very possibly still believing he was too important, too rich, too woven into the state to fall. And Qing stripped him of every office and threw him in a cell. Then, in a cold hall, the charges were read aloud.
Count 1. Usurping the authority of the throne. Pearls finer than those worn by His late Majesty. A private house raised in the image of the Forbidden City itself. 20 counts in all.
2 decades of theft, laid out one count at a time. And at the end of it, the sentence, Lingqi, execution by slow slicing, death by 1,000 cuts, the most degrading death the empire could hand down. The richest thief who ever lived was going to be cut to pieces in public. And now the silk makes sense, because there was one person who could still ask the new emperor for a kindness: the princess, Qianlong's favorite daughter, the one who had married Heshen's son. For her sake, the emperor bent. Not freedom, never freedom, just a different death. Heshen would be spared the 1,000 cuts. He would be allowed to end it himself with a length of silk in private. That was the mercy. That is what one of the largest fortunes ever assembled bought its owner when it finally came due. Not escape,
Not one more year, only a cleaner exit than the one he'd earned. On the 22nd of February, 1799, 15 days after the heartbeat he depended on went silent, Heshen knotted the silk. He was 48 years old. And the fortune? Every tael was confiscated and poured straight into the treasury of the new emperor. The very throne it had been stolen from got the whole thing back in a single afternoon. The people had a saying for it: Heshen falls, and Qing eats his fill. One of the largest thefts in history bankrolled the empire that ended the thief. For 20 years, Heshen spent his life proving that money could buy anything. Offices, loyalty, silence, an emperor's love. And he was right up until the last 15 days. The one thing $250 billion couldn't buy him was time past the life of the old man who shielded him. Not one safe day, only 15 doomed ones. His house still stands in Beijing. They call it the Prince Gong Mansion now, a museum full of tourists who wander the rooms a gate guard built to rival a palace. The silver is long gone. The beds they swore were solid gold, the clocks, the pearls, all of it scattered centuries ago. Only the walls stayed. So here's the question I'll leave you with. Was Heshen the richest man who ever lived? Or just the man who held the most, for the shortest time? Was $250 billion ever really his, if he owned it only as long as one old man kept breathing? I'll be reading your answers below.